What is good, everybody? It's your boy Champagne Chico, and we're back. But this week for Mock Draft Mondays, I really was just thinking about reacting to my mock draft that was supposed to be for the 2023 draft, but shit ended up going sideways. And we already have a curse word in the first minute of the video. So, I was definitely surprised. If you guys watch the live stream later on, I was blatantly surprised with all the different picks that was going on, the linemen that were took, at what spot they were took. I mean, I knew the rumors. I did take some of the players whenever they were supposed to go. I had imagined Bijan was going to go at 8. I think I did have that in my 3-round mock draft, but the 2-round was really the one that I had a lot of confidence in. And a lot of y'all came to the channel off that video, and a lot of y'all enjoyed that video from my channel. So I wanted to be able to react to it instead of just making basically the same mock draft as last week and just having something different. We might do these from time to time just so we don't kind of get dry on these Mondays and just have something different coming out every Monday. But before we get into the video, I do have to ask you to go down there and like and subscribe for me. I make football content basically throughout the whole week. It could be changing at any point to another sport or just all the sports in general because I just love sports. I love basketball and football mainly. But I just like talking about sports. I like playing the sports games and all that stuff. So hopefully if you enjoy that content, you should subscribe to the channel and like it so more people can see it. But we'll go ahead and get into the video. I am on the other side of myself so I can have conversations with myself and tell him how stupid he is for not taking Bijan in the top 10, supposedly. So, is good, everybody. It is your boy Champagne Chico. And today we're back with another mock draft. As I said, I'm planning to have mock drafts going up every day up until the day of the draft, maybe even the day 2 and day 3 of the draft. If I didn't do that, to do 6 rounds or 7 rounds, I was not going to do that. We're going to be doing a 2-round mock draft. And there has been some rumors circulating after my last video. The Cardinals are a team that seems very desperate to trade the number 3 overall pick. It seems like they're not comfortable taking anybody at that position, right? In terms of the prospects that they have, Tyree Wilson was supposed to be this huge prospect. I know there was like a few commentators that said, oh, I predicted that the Texans were going to trade for the number 3 pick. But did we actually think, like genuinely, did we think that they were going to trade for the number 3 pick? Because I didn't. I was completely surprised. I mean, it's the smart move in a way. They did have to give up one of their first-round picks next year, but I think it was their own, actually, to the Cardinals. So they might have top 2 picks, depending on how the Texans season goes with C.J. Stroud and now Will Anderson. I don't think they're going to be good off the rip, so I'm sure the Cardinals are happy about that, but I was not expecting them to do that. But Will Anderson is a great edge rusher, so I'm not completely against it. They maybe gave a lot for it. I don't know. That they wanted to take. Now, supposedly, Kyler Murray's telling the Cardinals to draft Paris Johnson Jr., which I don't blame. And they did just that. Big tackle. Could help Kyler Murray a lot. I don't think he's going to have to see over him much since he is on the tackle side because Kyler Murray is very short. Very. And then you have the Aaron Rodgers trade that went down yesterday. And really, it was just a pick swap of first-round picks and a 5th-round pick and then a 2nd-round pick next year. But it turns into a first if Aaron Rodgers plays 65% of his snaps. It looks like it's going to happen. Before we get into the video, I'm going to have to ask you to go down there and like and subscribe for type of videos, whether it's the rebuilds, whether it's after the 2023 draft is over. But it's just always fun to see all the different scenarios that could possibly happen. But, of course, we have to start the draft, and I think the consensus number 1 overall pick is going to be Bryce Young. I can't really see anybody else. I know C.J. Stroud is the prototypical Frank Reich QB. He is. I'm just not. I'm not too convinced on it because CJ Stroud, I'm just not convinced that he can be a superstar. Now, I hope he proves me wrong because he was very entertaining at Ohio State in the Georgia game and any of the games that he performed very well. But Bryce Young is the definition of consistency. He has a lot of tangible things that you can't teach any other. Everybody knew that it was going to be Bryce Young. No matter how many times they tried to deflate his value or tried to say, oh, CJ Stroud, Frank Wright QB, tall, long, can get out, or maybe not even get out, just tall, big, CJ Stroud is that, but it's at the end of the day, CJ Stroud, he was fantastic. He was definitely fantastic for a while, but I just don't know if you have as much confidence in CJ Stroud as you do Bryce Young. Now, I hope they're both perennial superstars in the league from this draft, because a lot of people are trying to say next year's draft is already going to be better than this year's. I think Bryce Young is going to be fantastic. They made the right moves to get him weapons other than trading DJ Moore. If he had DJ Moore on the team, he would be great. But I think Bryce Young can work with whatever weapons that he has. That's what he did at Alabama. Most of his weapons were injured. I can't imagine a situation that Bryce Young does not perform well. Now, if that does happen, then I'll bite the bullet and say that I was wrong. But I think the only safe option in this draft was Bryce Young. So the Panthers were not trying to risk, we can wait for Anthony Richardson. We can wait for Will Levis, who ended up dropping out of the first round. So it's a whole situation. Also, that is me when I'm not in the sun and not getting any sort of anything. You can see my face right now, and I am sunburnt. Kind of sunburnt, because I'm not completely, pale. And as much as he doesn't have the size, he's 5'10". I mean, I think you can live with that. I think you can definitely live with that. Almost a Russell Wilson type player, and we saw how great Russell Wilson was for a while. Now in the Broncos, he's kind of iffy. But Bryce Young is going to be going to the Carolina Panthers. Hopefully they can give him some talent in these later rounds now that we have a 2-round mock draft. But now the Texans are on the board, and another team that could possibly trade down. But maybe they want to have their superstar right now. Maybe they want to have somebody like Will Anderson, who is seen as a future star in the league at the edge position, could really make a difference for the Texans defense, continue to add a lot of young talent for that Texans defense. They already have Jalen Petrie at the moment.
Jalen Petrie was solid.
Was a great safety last year.
Yep.
I mean, the Derek Stingley's also there. He was okay, but he can probably get better. But Will Anderson will solidify that defensive line of the Houston Texans going.
Now, I wasn't wrong. They just took him one spot later. But he still went to the Texans. So, technically, I count that as 2 for 2. But I really wasn't expecting the Cardinals to trade this to the Texans. Also, just because you're really going to give them 2 superstars off the rip. Not even 2 superstars. 1 defensive superstar and 1 possible superstar in CJ Stroud. So, yeah.
To Houston. And now the Cardinals are here. And a team that supposedly is very desperate to trade down. The only way that I see this happening, and they are still able to get somebody like Peter Skoronski or Paris Johnson, is if they possibly trade with a team like the Falcons. Now, it just depends on how much the Falcons want their QB right now. It's iffy for me. It's definitely iffy for me. I mean, I don't expect the Bears and the Eagles to go by and defense.
Did I trade it?
If they trade the last video that could be a possibility.
Hold on.
As I think I said in the last video that could be a possibility.
What did I say? What could be a possibility?
Definitely proved it. Maybe they try to risk it and they trade with the Titans. I think I said in the last...
I think the Titans should have made the move. I think they should have gone up to the 3rd pick. Now they just gave the Texans 2 great rookies. I don't know. Maybe it was just too much because they were a little... No, they were still around the same area as the Texans. They're 1 spot above the Texans.
maybe they would have to give up a little more just because they have a little bit more superstars. The Texans, you don't really have anybody that you would want to get. I need to see what all happened, to be honest with you. Okay, so the tracker, Chicago trades for the number 1 pick, draft day deals. So, okay. Okay, so what happened was Arizona traded number 3 to Houston for number 12, which the Texans sent the number 12 pick, their second round pick, and a first and a third round pick next year to the Cardinals for the number 3 pick and a fourth round pick this year. And then Detroit traded number 6 to Arizona. Because I think at that point, they didn't feel like they had to be there. They felt like they could have got something for it. So the Detroit Lions traded their first round pick, third round pick to the Arizona Cardinals for a first round pick, a second rounder, and a fifth rounder. It was originally traded from the Rams, whatever, blase, blase. So the Cardinals got, of course, Paris Johnson, like I said. So technically, if we're not counting where the spots are at, then it's understandable. But I think I'm going to keep this up just in case there's any more mix-up. Last video that could be a possibility. Don't know why it doesn't come up as a possible thing here, but it's not going to matter much. Tennessee Titans, the 3rd overall pick, the 11th pick. Supposedly, the Cardinals are super desperate, so I'll just put 1 first-round pick next year. Won't get into the specifics like I said before. And the Tennessee Titans move up to the 3rd overall. I also was not expecting it to be that much. I'm not going to lie to you. I was not expecting it to be as much as it was for the Texans. Overall pick to try to replace Ryan Tannehill right now. In the season that he turns 35, Ryan Tannehill is probably not somebody you're looking for the future for. But now the Titans are on the clock, and they could go with somebody like CJ Stroud right now, which seems like a lot more safe of an option rather than Will Levis and Anthony Richardson, although Anthony Richardson is a phenomenal athlete. Was this when I had CJ Stroud dropping? Just a big risk at the 3rd pick if you already are going to be trading probably a load right now. CJ Stroud seems like somebody that the Titans will probably take if they have the chance at the 3rd overall pick if they're able to trade up. Right. Yeah, CJ Stroud going to Tennessee. Yeah, okay. Helping out. It's valid. I mean, in reality, they both ended up going 2 and 3, whether it's mixed up or whatever. But I think if the Titans made that move, they would be pretty good right now. Now, for some reason, Will Levis fell out the first round, which I understand why, but it's a bit of a stretch in terms of how far he fell. I think I was really expecting by the time it got to the Vikings pick, unfortunately, my power went out because of the storm that was happening in Florida at that point. But I was really expecting the Vikings to take him if he dropped to them. Now, they went Jordan Addison, which is not bad at all. Like, you keep adding after you let go of Adam Thielen. Now you put somebody next to Jay Jettas and keep doing your thing with that. But I was honestly expecting them to try to draft for the future in terms of their franchise. I really don't think Kirk Cousins is going to be that good this year. But I say that almost every year, and he ends up being moderately decent. And then when it gets to the end of the season, he just starts being dog shit. So, yeah. I think I was right on this one, wasn't I? That team right there. And now the Colts are on the clock. It's between Will Levis and Anthony Richardson. Right. I have basically convinced myself since I recorded this video last that the Colts could definitely go with Anthony Richardson over Will Levis if it came down to it. If it came down to it and CJ Stroud is not on the board, I mean, even if CJ Stroud was on the board, I feel like they're going to take Anthony Richardson to try to develop him. I mean, you have Michael Pittman on the team, Jonathan Taylor still on the team. I think the Colts might take a risk and see if they can get that Cam Newton type of player after having all these old quarterbacks. So Anthony Richardson can develop a lot in that Indianapolis offense. I think that should be a good position for him and the Colts. The Seahawks. This is really the only one that I'm for sure expecting Jalen Carter to be taken at. I can't imagine anybody else going to the Seahawks with the need that they have at the defensive line. Okay, sorry.
Honestly, right now I'm 4 for 4. Just saying. But Anthony Richardson, I think, is going to be great for the Colts. I think he's going to develop very well with those weapons. I basically said it already. Carter's just very good. I mean, he's a bit undersized for the defensive tackle position, but he's very powerful. He is very powerful. He knows how to use his hands. He was phenomenal at Georgia. I mean, there was a lot going around about him missing snaps from now and then. I wouldn't think too much about it. I think the Seahawks can use him very well. And Jalen Carter goes to the Seahawks. They're not going to... He should have never fell. Now, I'm not against Devin Witherspoon on the Seahawks. Fantastic pickup. Fantastic. I think he's going to be great for them. I think he'll be fantastic next to Tariq Woolen. But Jalen Carter, you're a team that has such a scarcity at defensive line at points, and you pass on Jalen Carter because you're trying to go the way that you've always gone, which is good character people, but you don't know that about Jalen Carter just yet. I mean, this guy was crying when he got drafted. Now, most people would react that way, but I don't think Jalen Carter is a bad person. I don't think he has a tendency of just doing whatever. I think he is very mature. I think he can definitely be good. And now you let him go to a team like the Philadelphia Eagles, who already had a dominant defense. They went completely Georgia Bulldogs in this entire draft, and basically every draft ever in his past couple of years, and it's worked out for them. You gave them the two-headed monster that Georgia had in Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis. Like, you have to think about that. Jordan Davis was an insane athlete at defensive, or just defensive line in general, at nose tackle, whatever. And now you have Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis. They're not going to know what to do on the offensive line. There's nothing to do. As much as it was college, it's all that stuff or whatever, they're not going to be able to react. To draft a quarterback just yet. And now the Lions are here. And cornerback has been the rumored position of choice for Detroit. I still think Christian Gonzalez will go over Devin Witherspoon. I just don't think teams are very convinced. I don't think they're very convinced on Devin Witherspoon having one good season and then all of a sudden he's better than Christian Gonzalez.
I was wrong.
A talent for a while now that has been looked at for the draft. Yeah, I think Christian Gonzalez still goes to Detroit. I can't imagine any other situation. And the wildest thing, I was not expecting Christian Gonzalez to drop to the Patriots, who traded their number 14 pick to number 17 and still got Christian Gonzalez. How? And there's been like rumors and everything that Bill Belichick traded with the Steelers just to fuck with the, like, literally, quote for quote, fuck with the Jets, which I completely am fine with because we're all in the same division. I'm a Dolphins fan, so I'm fine with the Jets getting screwed over. Also because they just got Aaron Rodgers. Like, they don't need more help. But I'm surprised the Jets didn't take Christian Gonzalez. You put Christian Gonzalez next to Sauce? That's insane. That's almost like what the Seahawks did. You have Tariq Woolen and Devin Witherspoon now. Also, I was not expecting Devin Witherspoon to go top 5 ever in my wildest dreams. He's a fantastic cornerback. I am not downing him at all. But teams have always been hesitant on players that haven't had consistent seasons of growth or consistent seasons of being good. He literally had a breakout season this past season in college at Illinois. I don't know. Maybe Devin Witherspoon. I just don't know if that front office is going to be too convinced about it. But now the Raiders are here. Will Levis is still here. Maybe they're not even convinced on Will Levis. I just don't know if the Raiders can go anywhere else but quarterback here. Of course, corner is a position that they would probably want to go with, but do they keep trying to swing at cornerback? They keep wasting their top picks on cornerbacks that could possibly not even be that good, as they've struggled in the draft trying to get a cornerback. So maybe they don't even test it at this position.
They didn't.
I can see Will Levis going to the Raiders.
No, they didn't.
A strong arm, very strong arm. just needs to get a little more accurate. Devin Witherspoon is really neck and neck with Will Levis in terms of getting picked by. Neither happened at all. Well, also because Tyree Wilson fell, and Tyree Wilson fell too. I look all for Tyree Wilson. I hope he has a great career. I guess I just haven't watched enough about him, but I genuinely didn't have much about Tyree Wilson. Like, I just wasn't too convinced. And I think in this one I had him falling, and I didn't even realize that I had him falling. Like, I was picking because of team need, team value, or just overall value. Like, I don't know. I just wasn't very convinced on Tyree Wilson. I honestly didn't even expect them to take Tyree Wilson in the draft either. He did drop to them, but also Jalen Carter was on the board. You had, if I remember correctly, it was Jalen Carter. Nolan Smith was still there. You had linemen. I really didn't think that they were going to go Tyree Wilson completely. Now, just because of value and his athleticism and all that stuff, not against it. But yeah, the Raiders. Here we are with the Falcons. I'm not going to be trading the Texans pick like I did before because Anthony Richardson is no longer on the board and there's no QBs anymore.
Right.
So now the Falcons are here. Could take Bijan, like I said, Arthur Smith, somebody that likes to have running backs. He likes to have a good running back in that backfield, a power running back, somebody that can really be a game changer, and that's what Bijan Robinson is. But maybe they try to help out their defense a little more because they have some offensive weapons. I think they can live with Tyler Algier for the season. Yeah, Tyree Wilson seems to be falling more and more, but I think the Falcons need an edge very badly. I'm going to go ahead and go with Tyree Wilson. Seems to be the closer we get to the draft, the less convinced teams are in him. I think the Falcons take a chance, though. Tyree Wilson going to Atlanta, and I really didn't think they were going to go offense wholeheartedly. Like, of course, the day of the draft, I did, and I was then convinced. I think maybe in my 3-round I had Bijan going to the Falcons, but I was trying to look at the rumors. I was trying to look at the tendencies and all that stuff. Of course, if Tyree Wilson fell to the Falcons, I think they would have taken him. I think it would have been a hard decision between Tyree and Bijan, but I don't know. I really, if they didn't have Tyree Wilson on the board, I would have expected maybe Nolan Smith. But now you have Nolan Smith and Jalen Carter on the Eagles. I just can't get over that. And the Chicago Bears are here, and I think I'm sticking with Paris Johnson going to the Bears. Now, that's not going to make Kyler Murray happy. That's not going to make the Cardinals happy because they want a big tackle. They want to have a good offensive line that they currently do not have right now, or at least good enough for Kyler Murray because he's always scrambling out the pocket. Yeah, I feel like Paris Johnson is going to be taken by the Bears here still. Very good talent, very big talent, very just somebody that you can plug and play, and he's just going to develop very well over time. And now the Eagles are here. Okay. They really got Darnell Wright, and I was not. I was blatantly surprised because Peter Skoronski, of course, went next to the Titans, and the Titans, great pick, fantastic pick. I don't think they would have taken Darnell Wright if he was there, but maybe I'm just like not paying attention because I know Darnell Wright played great at Tennessee, but they have a very weird type of offense that they had running with Hendon Hooker, and I thought Peter Skoronski was going to be a safe pick if Paris Johnson was not on the board. Obviously, Paris Johnson was still on the board at 9 in my video, but even if it came down to Darnell Wright and Peter Skoronski, I would have not had that going. Yeah. Either way, the Bears traded with the Eagles at this point. That's why I really stopped this. They traded with the Eagles at this point, so the Eagles didn't let anybody go up and get Jalen Carter, even if they wanted him. I don't even think they're really competing with anybody in terms of the Jalen Carter drafting, but so basically I'm 1, 2, 3, 4, not Devin Witherspoon, 5, didn't have Tyree Wilson going there. I'm 5 for like 9 at this point because I didn't. Devin Witherspoon is
I didn't
still
have Jalen Carter
on
going
the
to the
board.
Eagles.
I don't think they take Peter Skoronski because I think I convinced myself earlier that they're going to go with defense. Yeah, I'm pretty convinced that probably Lucas Van Ness can go up here. I know that I had him dropping to the Seahawks pick all the way down in the first round at the 20th overall pick. Could happen. I think if he falls past the Eagles, he's going to be falling probably to the Seahawks. I don't think that the Packers are going to go with defense in the first round anymore because of the fact that they have brand new starting QB. Aaron Rodgers is out the door. Yeah, Lucas Van Ness going to the Eagles. Keep adding to that Eagles defense.
I think if Jalen Carter wasn't on the board, Lucas Van Ness was going to go to the Eagles. But
As much as possible can develop under Hassan Reddick. Lucas Van Ness is a very, very powerful edge. Very good at 270. Now the Cardinals are here. Peter Skoronski, not even going to waste your time. Peter Skoronski going to the Arizona Cardinals. Tackle, could play tackle. They could move him into guard. I think they might play him at tackle for the time being until they find better tackles, and then they move him into guard since his arms are a little short, little undersized for the tackle position, and it'll have him struggle in the NFL with all the talented edge rushers that there are. And
I don't think the Titans made a bad pick with that. I think if it came down to it and the Cardinals weren't able to trade up to the Lions pick, they would have taken Peter Skoronski, and happily too. It's all not bad picks. I had them taking offensive line regardless.
And now the Texans are here, and I think they're going to be preparing for the next draft in terms of trying to build for a future QB. And maybe they even take one in this draft if they're convinced on Hendon Hooker or somebody like that. But right here, I think they try to take a top wide receiver talent. They have Robert Woods, Nico Collins, not people that you're very trustworthy of. Jackson Smith-Njigba can be that man that can just be possibly a wide receiver one for the Texans if they give him the ball enough. They have Dalton Schultz now, so that was going to be their top receiving threat. But now Jackson Smith-Njigba could be going to the Houston Texans, and in this mock draft he will. But the Packers are now here. Moving up from the...
I did not have Jackson Smith-Njigba falling to the Seahawks on my bingo card at all. I mean, everybody drafted pretty well in between. Maybe not the Commanders. I think they draft somebody. They drafted Emmanuel Forbes. It's not bad. But you still had Christian Gonzalez on the board. I can't stress this enough. You had Deonte Banks on the board. You couldn't miss, and yet you still did. So that's what kind of like irks me in a way. Emmanuel Forbes, great size. He has great size. 14 interceptions over 3 college seasons. I don't know. When you have Christian Gonzalez on the board, I have him going over him 10 out of 10.
Well, let's see. Spot, and I still think they're going to go tight end. I don't imagine they're going to go cornerback. They're pretty set at cornerback at the moment. Defensive line is a position that they probably need, but Lucas Van Ness is no longer on the board for them. Wide receiver, tight end. I think they go offense. I mean, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I'm convinced on Quentin Johnston. I know that they got Christian Watson, and they developed him very well with this whole dropping the ball situation. And Quentin Johnston needs help with that too, but I don't know if the Packers are going to risk it at the 13th pick for Quentin Johnston. I'm not saying that they're not going to. They could possibly go with that, but tight end seems like something that you want. And I still think Michael Mayer is going to be going above Dalton Kincaid. As much as Dalton Kincaid is a great receiving threat, Michael Mayer is just somebody that is for sure going to be reliable. Could be top 10 tight end in the league, top 5, but that's only if they're able to use him properly. Michael Mayer is going to be going to the Green Bay Packers once again.
Which, surprisingly enough, he went to the Raiders in the second round at that. I think the only tight end that went in the first round was Dalton Kincaid. In the second round, Michael Mayer went to the Raiders. I think like almost Yeah, it was like the top of the second round. So, but Sam Laporta went to the Lions before the before Michael Mayer. Sorry, before Michael Mayer. Sam Laporta went over Michael Mayer, which makes sense from a Lions standpoint, since Sam Laporta was a student at Iowa, which had T.J. Hawkinson, who they've had before, and George Kittle. Both very good tight ends. Sam Laporta could possibly be that, but I'm just not sure about that. I don't think you really can compare it to their situation right now. But surprisingly enough, the Packers went Lucas Van Ness, which it wasn't very surprising, but you would think they would try to get some weapons for Jordan Love in some sort of situation. And then right after this was when the Steelers traded with the Patriots. So again, and the Patriots are now on the clock with QB, tackle, and edge being positions of need. And since the Jets traded down, they might miss out on Broderick Jones. As much as he's not this pivotal tackle that everybody thought he was going to be going into college, he could develop into that in this Patriots offense. And I have him going to New England. Now Darnell Wright is not going to be going to New England in this. And in reality, he ended up going at the same spot, but to the Steelers. And that was the Patriots pick before, which isn't a bad pick at all for the Steelers or a trade for the Patriots, because they saw that the Jets possibly weren't going to take Christian Gonzalez. And maybe the only risk was the Commanders, but then the Commanders took Emmanuel Forbes. So it wasn't a bad trade for the Patriots, but it also wasn't a bad trade for the Steelers. I think them getting Broderick Jones is going to help him a lot for the future. Broderick Jones has a lot of potential as a lineman. Could be very good for them. This mock draft, but the Jets need a tackle, especially now that they have a brand new QB in Aaron Rodgers, who probably isn't getting out the pocket enough with how old he is now.
Right.
Can probably still get out there, but only in very, very dire situations. Yeah, I think Darnell Wright is still going to be going to one of these two teams right here. And he goes to New York. And Darnell Wright went at the 10th spot to the Bears over Peter Skoronski. I mean, he's more of a tackle, but like, York and the Washington Commanders are now on the clock. Devin Witherspoon is still on the board, but that's kind of just how the draft has fallen right now. There's not really much to do about it. With the rumors about the Cardinals going with a lineman instead of possibly going with defense, I think they try to please Kyler Murray right now, especially with the new head coach. I can't imagine that he's going to try to piss off his new starting QB. But I think this is where the bleeding stops for Devin Witherspoon, because the Redskins could use a cornerback. And I don't think they're going to take Deonte Banks or Joey Porter over Devin Witherspoon with how good of a talent he is. Just, again, needs to work on his penalties, but very good in every other aspect of his game in Illinois. Hopefully that 1 year was not just a one-off, and he will be a good cornerback in the league. And now the Steelers are on. I'm honestly still surprised that he went top 5. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if that was the best choice for the Seahawks. I really do think Jalen Carter would have worked out no matter his situation that he has going on or whatever situation it is. I don't know. On the clock, regardless, they need a cornerback. Basically, between Joey Porter and Deonte Banks. Deonte Banks is possibly better. I think they go with Deonte Banks if they have to choose between him and Joey Porter. Deonte Banks is just very... He's like a L'Jarius Sneed type of cornerback, and the Steelers just desperately need a pivotal cornerback in their defense, and that is what they're going to go with. The Lions at pick 18, and I think they try to get somebody that can be on the opposite side of Aiden Hutchinson. They have a great defensive line. They have great defensive ends, but if you can have two people on each side that can just basically scare the crap out of the QB, Nolan Smith can definitely do that. As much as they probably need defensive interior, I think Nolan Smith can really do well in that Lions defense. They go defense once again. I don't think they're going to go tight end this high in the draft. It's so crazy to me that they went Jack Campbell in the first round. Like, he's a great middle linebacker, but you're just... Nobody had him going in the first round. I mean, maybe in some situations, like late, maybe the Chiefs. I would even say that, really. It's just, I get it. I get it. It's a team fit, you know? It's just not fitting for me. It's not. Because my thing is that also, the Jets took Will McDonald at the 15th overall pick, who, fantastic, amazing edge rusher or outside linebacker out of Iowa State. Very highly regarded, but not high enough to be mid-first round. It was definitely at best late first round. And he went to the Jets. The Jets and the Lions had some questionable draft picks, but there's a lot of tight end prospects right now that they could possibly go with. Luke Musgrave later on, Darnell Washington, a bunch of different players. But I have Nolan Smith going to the Detroit Lions. Not a bad pick for them. Very high upside for Nolan Smith out of Georgia. And this might break the hearts of and he fell to the 31st pick. A lot of the lower teams in the draft, like the Giants and the Eagles, since they need safety. But Brian Branch going to the Bucs seems more and more likely just because they need a safety right now. Very smart player. Could be on the opposite side of Antoine Winfield and play very well as well. Yeah, I'm going to have Brian Branch going to Tampa Bay. That would be a great pick for them. It would have been. It definitely would have been. They went Kalijah Kancey at the 19th overall pick. I mean, Kalijah's also not that bad at all. But Brian Branch ended up falling to the late second round. Was it? No. Was it the third round? Did I miss that? Wait. I must be tripping. I could have sworn that the Lions got him. Did they not? Sam Laporta, Brian Branch. Yeah, second round. 14th pick of the second round. For what reason? I mean, he went past the Chiefs. It's not like he doesn't have IQ. It's not like... it's almost like the same situation as Devin Witherspoon. He had one good year, and for some reason he fell. Devin Witherspoon should have had the same fall as he did, but he ended up going number 5. For what reason? I don't know. Brian Branch is a very talented player. That's all I'll say. And I think he's going to be great for the Lions, especially with C.J. Gardner-Johnson probably only being on the 1-year deal. I don't know if he's going to stay longer than that. If they got Brian Branch, that would help their defense tremendously, especially with Devin White might be moving on. I don't think they go with a linebacker or edge in any way. Think they take the big prospect in Brian Branch. And now the Seahawks are on the clock needing guard, center, or defensive line. Bijan is still here. And once again, I think they're still going to get an edge regardless if Lucas Van Ness is on the board or not. And Myles Murphy can be very good alongside Jalen Carter. 2 first-round defensive positions taken for the Seattle Seahawks. And the Chargers... And Myles Murphy actually ended up dropping to the 29th pick. I mean, if Jackson Smith and Jigbo was still there on my draft, I would have taken him for the Seahawks just because of pure value. But, yeah. Still somebody I'm pretty convinced that Zay Flowers is going to be going to. I don't think that the Chargers are going to take a running back in the first round.
I was blatantly convinced.
As much as Bijan is a very, very talented running back.
I was saying it in the drafts.
I think they continue to help out Justin Herbert as much as possible. They might give Isaiah Spiller the ball, but Zay complement Keenan Allen and
Zay Flowers going to the Chargers was really something that I thought I would
bet my top dollar on, just because of how it complements the Chargers offense. But they ended up taking Quentin Johnston. I think they kind of panicked, to be honest with you. I think they panicked. I mean, he has a lot of raw talent. Sorry, I have like an or an allergy reaction to this. I don't know. It's not like allergic, but I don't know what's going on. But yeah, I think they kind of panicked it a little bit with Jackson Smith and Jigba going before them. I feel like they didn't want to be that team that passed on the high upside Quentin Johnston over having Zay Flowers be that complementing piece to Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. But Mike Williams could really see that happening. Him going downfield like a T.Y. Hilton type of situation. And now the Ravens are looking to draft wide receiver, edge, or cornerback. And since Joey Porter is still here on the board, I think they go value for the positions that they need. They could find Kalijah Kancey enticing. They could go with Will McDonald as well. But if Joey Porter is still on the board for the Ravens, I think they end up taking him no matter the situation going on the offensive side of the ball. And the Vikings are here, and I am completely okay with the fact that they won Zay Flowers. Zay Flowers is basically like a Hollywood Brown for them now. And they don't have to pay him for like 3 or 4 years at this point. They have a very, very, very good offense now. They have Odell Beckham Jr., J.K. Dobbins, who, if he stays healthy, can develop really well. Zay Flowers, Devin Duvernay, Rashad Bateman. You got Lamar Jackson back on a 3-year extension, 4-year extension. He's going to be secured. I don't think it takes too much of a cap hit. The defensive side, you still have everybody. You still have Marcus Williams. You still have Marlon Humphrey. You still have Roquan Smith. The Raiders can be very good if they just play consistently. If they play the way they did last year, they're not going to be anything. If they play the way they did against the Dolphins, that they had a 3-touchdown lead and they let that go, they're not going to do anything. And I'm basically completely convinced that Brian Bresee is going to be going to Minnesota. Just powerful defensive interior player. I can't imagine him going anywhere else but the Vikings. Well, later on, I would imagine him going to the Saints, but in my next mock draft, it was just a bit late. But Jordan Addison went to the Vikings, which, again, don't blame him. I said it earlier, I don't blame him. You're trying to get that wide receiver 2 to Jay Jettas, and that's literally what everybody has been saying that Jordan Addison would be, is a very, very, very good wide receiver 2. Don't think that he can be like the main person in the offense. Maybe he can, who knows? But I think he excels more in that wide receiver 2 role, and being behind one of the best wide receivers in the league, it's going to be easy getting open. Yeah, Brian Bresee is just very explosive, and the Vikings could use some help on that defensive interior. As much as they have Jack Campbell here, they could go with that in the second round. Cornerback isn't. They wouldn't have been able to get it. They wouldn't have been able to get it because Jack Campbell went at the 16th pick. No, 18th pick. I knew it was an even number.
Reach out right now with Emmanuel Forbes, wide receiver. Quentin Johnston's still there. They did just lose Adam Thielen. Think I'm still going to go with Brian Bresee on the defensive side. Seem to need some help.
I should have thought about that longer. On that one statement that I said that they lost Adam Thielen. But I thought KJ Osborne would be good enough for them at the wide receiver 2 position. But
on that defensive line, and the Jaguars are looking... And I can see the Jaguars trying to solidify that offensive line even more. Osiris Torrance is very good out of Florida. They need guard. There's no edge or defensive backs that are very enticing for them at this position. Anton Harrison is strictly a tackle. I cannot see him at guard at all. So it might be a little of a reach for the Jaguars, but I think it's worth the couple of picks that they're going to be above. They might even trade down if they really want to with the Eagles. Now that I think about it,
The Jaguars are having a situation with Evan Ingram in the contract talks that they're having, and I'm not sure those will go well. And Dalton Kincaid is still here, but they could see if anybody down here wants to trade up and they test their luck in terms of the Eagles possibly trying to jump over the Cowboys to get Bijan. I mean, if you get Bijan on the Eagles, that would be insane. I mean, might be the trade. This might be the trade in terms of them getting their tight end Ingram, jumping over their rivals and taking Bijan Robinson up. Might be a wild take, but right now, I think the Atlanta Falcons only need a QB, and they're going to be contenders. The thing about the Falcons is that, I mean, Arthur Smith is a pretty good coach. He's pretty decent. He doesn't really know how to utilize Kyle Pitts that much, but he got himself a running back, and he used to have Derrick Henry in his hands. So having Bijan now, on top of having Drake London and Kyle Pitts, you just don't have a quarterback. Desmond Ridder is not your starting quarterback. I can't imagine you are voluntarily saying, yeah, he's the quarterback of the future. He's not. He's not. Let's be honest with ourselves. So they're probably going to be preparing for next draft. I would think they're trying to shoot for Caleb Williams, but also the Falcons were supposed to be tanking this year, and they ended up going, like 7-10? And that's still a pretty not great record, but not as bad as what most people thought. An amazing talent that they could possibly still get at the 10th pick. But I think they go defense first and see how the draft falls with Bijan jumping over the New York Giants and the Dallas Cowboys, and now they're stuck in a position of what they're going to do with themselves. I mean, they need wide receiver. Could go Quentin Johnson since he is still on the board. And I think that's just what I'm going to do right now. The Giants need a wide receiver, or they need receivers in general. Yeah, Quentin Johnson going to New York. Brian Branch is no longer on the board. Linebackers is a bit too far of a position to be drafting here. Really extended contract. Now, not the worst pick in the world. I think the thing about it was that the wide receivers fell off so quickly in terms of getting drafted. There was literally 4 straight wide receivers drafted, and it went JSN, Quentin Johnson, Zay Flowers, Jordan Addison, all back to back to back to back. There was no wide receivers before that, and then there wasn't any after that in the first round. Deonte Banks, all of a sudden, after being spoken so highly of throughout the whole draft, ends up falling to the New York Giants at the 25th pick. So, I mean, it's a great situation for him. It's a great situation for the Giants. They get a cornerback again and possibly helps that defense even more. But yeah, I like Deonte Banks. I think he's going to be great. I do think he's going to be pretty good. Now the Dallas Cowboys are here without Bijan on the board. Bijan going to the Eagles. That's a scary, scary offense. But Kalijah Kancey's still here. And as much as that's probably... I don't know. I think the Cowboys like the potential of Kalijah Kancey playing alongside Micah Parsons. I do too. I think that's going to be entertaining. But if he falls this far and Bijan isn't on the board, I can't see them going with anything else since it's going to be too much of a reach. They could trade down, but I don't think I'm going to be doing that right now since I just made the trade for Jacksonville and the Eagles. Yeah, I'm going to have Kalijah Kancey going to Dallas. That's going to be my pick. And I don't think that's a bad pick either. They took Mozzie Smith, which I had in a previous mock draft of just a round one. I had him going to the Cowboys. But the more everything started circulating, the more people weren't very convinced on Kalijah Kancey, even with the whole combine thing. But it seems like the Bucs were convinced enough because they put somebody right next to Vita Vea. And then at that pick, they took Mozzie Smith. Now, the thing about it is that... Oh, actually, wait. The Jaguars and the Bills swap picks. No? For some reason... Okay, so the Giants went up to... Let me find it again. Sorry. Okay. Okay. So the Jaguars traded with the Giants, so the Giants would move up one spot. Then the Jaguars traded the 25th pick to the Buffalo Bills, and then the Buffalo Bills took Dalton Kincaid, but there's no Dalton Kincaid here.
For the Dallas Cowboys.
Oh, there
very
is.
high
Shit.
upside out of Pittsburgh.
Oh, I know why I didn't draft him, because he was said to be like a move tight end. Like, I mean, and it makes sense for the Bills because Dawson Knox is a pretty good blocker and can get out, but he's not really a receiving threat unless Josh Allen is feeding. Oh my God, is feeding him the ball. I guess it works out. I guess it works out for that offense. You can have a double tight end scheme. I don't know if anybody's going to be convinced that Dalton Kincaid is going to be blocking, but
Same as Aaron Donald, as he has been compared to. And the Buffalo Bills, this is really a position that they just might reach. I don't think they're going to complicate things too much. Mozzie Smith is still somebody that I can see going there. There's cornerback Emmanuel Forbes. He's still here since Devin Witherspoon was able to drop all the way to the Commanders. Having Joey Porter be able to drop to the Ravens, and they didn't have to reach for Emmanuel Forbes. But Emmanuel Forbes is a great cornerback for the Buffalo Bills. Great size. Tremendous ball skills. Just needs to add a little muscle mass, and I think he can do that in Buffalo. Out of Mississippi State, he will be going to Buffalo, New York. And the Bengals are here.
I think if there's still any cornerbacks left on the board at that point in terms of like actual... Well, actually, no. Joey Porter was still on the board when that happened, but also Dalton Kincaid was there. I guess they were a little more convinced on that than Joey Porter. Yeah, I mean, Emmanuel Forbes isn't a bad pick for the Bills anyways.
With no Bijan on the board, no Kalijah Cansey on the board, defensive back is a possibility, but Dalton Kincaid has already fallen far enough. And they could use a really good tight end, whether it was Michael Mayer or Dalton Kincaid. I think they can utilize Kincaid very well. Out of Utah, he is a bit older.
Yeah, like I was saying, he is a bit older. It could help him. It could help him a lot, but in a Bengals offense, I think he would have been better in terms of how much he would be utilized. But the fact that he can't really block as well as most of the tight ends in the draft kind of takes away from his value in a way. But again, Buffalo is a pretty good situation for him just because he won't have to block as often. He just needs to block efficiently.
But Hayden Hurst already went to the Panthers, a receiving option for Bryce Young now. Now the Saints at the 29th pick, guard, center, defensive line, and cornerback. Osiris Torrance is right here for the taking. As I've thought about it a little more, I think they're going to go Will McDonald. He has insane size. 35-inch arms. Very explosive. Cameron Jordan's only getting older. Yeah, Will McDonald going to New Orleans, and then that sets up the Jaguars to get the guard that they were planning to get already.
And of course, if Brian Brisset was there, they would have taken him. But neither of them were actually on the board because Will McDonald went very early for what he was expected to be taken at. But it's not a bad pick either way. I think they still took a very good defensive lineman in Brian Brisset, of course. Will McDonald probably would have been more ideal. But now we're at the 30th pick with the Jaguars instead of the Eagles, since they actually traded out of that pick so they could get Bijan in my draft, but they stuck at the 31st pick in the actual
value out of that position, trading it to the Eagles with Osiris Torrance.
going to Jacksonville, not too far from where he went to college. They ended up taking him. They ended up taking Anton Harrison in the first round, which, of course, not a bad pick at all. But it was raising a lot of question marks because why do you need tackle? I think they kind of thought that they needed to replace the tackle that they lost to the Chiefs in the offseason. I feel like a guard would have probably been a better situation, like Osiris Torrance, but they ended up going with Anton Harrison. And the Chiefs are going to be going with the wide receiver in Jordan Addison. Very good route runner, but might only be a wide receiver 2 at best in the league. And Anton Harrison. So I'm basically gonna finish that off like right here in terms of this reaction. I don't want to make this video too long, but I think the first round was really when people cared a lot about it. I mean, Felix ended up going to the Chiefs in this one in terms of the real life one. Nolan Smith dropped to the Jaguars. Anton Harrison had already went in the first round. So in real life, the cornerbacks were the ones that fell. And then in my draft, it was a lot of the offensive linemen. I wanted to see, I'm not going to say too much about the second round just because I think I just want to say that for next week. But I'm not sure where DeJuan Jones went. He went to... Did he go after Cody Mauch or Mock? Did he go in the third round? He went in the fourth? DeJuan Jones, who had an ADP of 34.4, ended up going at the 111th pick to the Cleveland Browns. That's actually insane. I mean, I understand with the injuries and everything that he's had, but dropping to the fourth round is absurd. That's absurd. Past Blake Freeland and all those tackles is absurd to me. But yeah, I think that's really all I'm going to cover for right now in terms of that. I think I was pretty confident with how my drafts went. It's just a lot of things happen in real life that you just don't see. You just don't see a lot of chaos happen in even just the first top 15 picks. So it was very unpredictable. It was something that you couldn't really expect. And I think it was very entertaining for that. And I think the teams got what they really wanted out of this, to be honest. I mean, Jahmyr Gibbs, that's who I was going to talk about. Jahmyr Gibbs went at a 12th pick to the Lions when they traded out of that, which, I mean, I understand. I mean, now especially that they traded DeAndre Swift to the Eagles. But Jahmyr Gibbs, for the value, I don't think I would have taken him at the 12th pick. I think if you really wanted to take him, you could have traded into the low first round just to be safe. Maybe like the Jaguars pick at that point, since they have Travis Etienne, I don't think they would want to really take another running back, and then they would still be above the Mozzie Smith Cowboys and the Cincinnati Bengals. Those are the only teams that I would be concerned about, of course. I mean, yeah, the Eagles didn't really take halfback, which they didn't really have the opportunity to. So I think the Eagles drafted the best in this, to be honest with you. If you want me to release a draft grades type of video or just me reacting to the second round of this, just because I really don't want this video to be super long and like a sit down and watch type of thing. I want you guys to actually enjoy it and watch the whole thing. But let me know what you want to see in terms of mock draft content. I can react to other people's mock draft for next year, whether it's legitimate analysis or analyst. My bilingualness is not helping me right now. But yeah, let me know what you want to see. If you enjoy, please go down there and like and subscribe for me. And I will see you in the next video. Peace.